Beth Harrison wiped down the same steel counter she'd been cleaning for 8 years. The cafeteria of the Interstellar Medical Complex never really got dirty, but the routine kept her hands busy. Around her, aliens of every shape and size moved through the serving line. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some looked almost human except for the extra eyes or the blue skin. She'd learned to stop staring years ago. Her job was simple. Make sure everyone got food they could actually eat. The Krellians needed sulfur in their meals or they'd get sick. The Valtorians required everything frozen solid. The Heptarians couldn't eat anything that had ever been alive, which made meal prep interesting. Beth had it all memeized. She took pride in that, even if nobody else noticed. Another day, another 1,000 meals, her co-worker Danny said, hauling a crate of protein packs past her station. Somebody's gotta do it, Beth replied with a shrug. She meant it too. This wasn't glamorous work. She wasn't a doctor saving lives or a pilot exploring new worlds. She was just the person who made sure aliens didn't accidentally poison themselves in the cafeteria. But it mattered. At least, she told herself it did. Everything changed on a Tuesday. The medical complex went into lockdown that morning. Security flooded the halls. Beth watched through the serving window as armed guards rushed past. Something big was happening, but nobody told the cafeteria staff anything. They never did. Did you hear? Danny rushed over, his eyes wide. They brought in Prince Raxon. The actual crown prince of the Drakari Empire. He's dying. Beth had heard of the Drakari. Everyone had. They looked like dragons from old Earth legends, with scales and wings and fire. Their empire controlled half the known galaxy. They were powerful, proud, and they didn't have much use for humans. Earth was still considered a backwater planet by most of the galaxy's standards. What happened to him? Beth asked. Assassination attempt. Poison or something. The doctors can't figure it out. Danny lowered his voice. They're saying he might not make it. The lunch rush came and went. Beth prepared specialized meals for the medical staff working overtime. She made extra portions, knowing they'd forget to eat while trying to save a prince. That was the thing about hospitals, human or alien. The healers always forgot to take care of themselves. Late in the afternoon, Dr. Helen Cooper from the Royal Medical Wing came down personally to pick up the prince's meal. That was unusual. Normally they sent assistants. Is it ready? Helen asked, looking exhausted. Right here. Drakari standard prep. High-temperature proteins, mineral supplements, the works. Beth handed over the insulated container. Helen hesitated. He's not eating. Hasn't touched food in 3 days. His body's shutting down. She looked at Beth with tired eyes. I don't know what else to try. Something in Beth's chest tightened. She'd never met this prince, never even seen a Drakari up close. But the thought of someone dying because they couldn't eat felt wrong. That was her job. Making sure people could eat. Can I see what you've been giving him? Beth asked. Helen blinked. You want to see the prince's meal plan? Just curious. Professional interest. 10 minutes later, Beth was reviewing the nutrition charts on Helen's datapad. Everything looked correct by the book. Drakari physiology, standard protocols, proper temperatures. But something nagged at her. She'd served Drakari merchants before, back when a trade delegation visited the station 2 years ago. They'd been picky. Really picky. This temperature, Beth pointed at the screen. You're serving it at 90 degrees Celsius. That's what the medical database says. Right, but that's the minimum safe temperature. The Drakari I've served before liked their food way hotter. Like, painfully hot by our standards. Almost burning. Helen frowned. The database doesn't mention that. Maybe because it's not about biology. Maybe it's about preference. Culture. Beth thought for a moment. And these minerals? You're using the synthetic compounds? Of course. They're chemically identical to natural sources. But do they taste identical? Beth had learned that lesson with the Valtorians. Technically correct wasn't always actually correct. Helen studied her. You really think it matters? I think if I was dying and someone kept trying to feed me food that didn't taste right, I wouldn't eat it either. Even if I was starving. Something shifted in Helen's expression. Come with me. Beth had never been to the Royal Wing before. It was quieter than the rest of the complex, with guards at every junction. They passed through 3 security checkpoints before reaching a massive door. Inside, the room was dim and hot, like stepping into a furnace. And there, on a bed designed for someone 3 times human size, lay Prince Raxon. Beth had seen pictures of Dracari, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. He was massive, easily 4 meters long, with deep crimson scales that seemed to absorb the light. Wings folded against his sides. Even unconscious and dying, he looked dangerous. "He's beautiful," Beth whispered without thinking. The guard stared at her like she was insane. Helen gestured to the untouched meal on the side table. "This is what we've been trying. Standard preparation." Beth approached slowly, very aware of the guards' hands on their weapons. She picked up the plate and sniffed it. Correct ingredients, correct mixture. But cold. Well, cold by Dracari standards. "Can I use your kitchen?" Beth asked. "What are you going to do?" "My job." 20 minutes later, Beth returned with a new plate. She'd superheated the proteins until they were nearly smoking. She'd swapped the synthetic minerals for natural ones from her own cafeteria stock, the expensive stuff she saved for VIPs. She'd added a compound she remembered the Dracari merchant sprinkling on everything, something that smelled like cinnamon and tasted like fire. "This is insane," one of the guards muttered. "Probably," Beth agreed. She approached the prince's bed, her heart hammering. "Your Highness." "Nothing." She touched his scaled arm gently. The heat radiating from him was incredible. "Prince Raxon? I have food. Real food." One golden eye cracked open. Vertical pupil. Predator's eye. It focused on her with an intensity that made her want to run. Beth held up the plate. "I know you're hungry. I know the food they've been giving you tastes wrong. Try this. Please." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then his nostrils flared. His head lifted slightly. His mouth opened, revealing rows of teeth that could easily bite her in half. Beth spooned the food forward, her hands surprisingly steady. Prince Raxon ate. The room erupted. Helen gasped. Guards rushed forward. Medical sensors started beeping frantically. But Beth just stood there, feeding a dying dragon prince one spoonful at a time, watching his golden eyes focus and clear. When the plate was empty, Raxon's head lowered back to the pillow. His gaze never left Beth's face. "Thank you," he rumbled, his voice like distant thunder. Then his eyes closed again. Helen grabbed Beth's arm. "What did you do?" "I just gave him food he actually wanted to eat," Beth said, still staring at the prince. Over the next hour, the medical team ran every test imaginable. Raxon's vital signs had stabilized. His body was finally processing nutrients. He was healing. "We need to try feeding him again," Helen said. "Nurse Patterson, prepare another." "No." The word came from the bed. Raxon's eyes opened again, sharp and aware. "Huh. Only her." Everyone froze. "Your Highness, Ms. Harrison is a cafeteria worker, not medical staff," Helen tried to explain. "I do not care about her title. I will only accept food from her hands." Raxon's gaze found Beth again. "Will you help me?" Beth thought about her quiet cafeteria. Her simple life. Her 8 years of invisible routine. She thought about how close this prince had come to dying because nobody understood that sometimes what people need isn't technically correct. "It's just right." "Yeah," Beth said. "I'll help you." She had no idea that those 3 words would change everything. For her. For him. For 2 entire species. But standing in that overheated room, watching a dragon prince breathe easier because of something she'd cooked, Beth felt something she hadn't felt in 8 years. She felt like she mattered. Beth's entire life changed overnight. They moved her into a small room right next to the royal wing. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. It was actually nicer than her apartment back in the residential sector, but she barely noticed. She was too busy trying to process what was happening. 3 times a day, she fed Prince Raxon. Morning, afternoon, and evening. Like clockwork. And every single time, there were observers. Doctors pressed against the observation window. Dracari nobles watching from viewing screens. Earth diplomats taking notes. Scientists running scans. Beth felt like an animal in a zoo, except she was the zookeeper and the dragon was the one everyone actually cared about. "This is so weird," she muttered to herself on day 3, preparing breakfast in the small kitchen they'd set up for her. Danny visited when he could, bringing supplies from the main cafeteria. "You're famous now, you know. Everyone's talking about the human who saved the dragon prince." "I didn't save him. I just fed him properly." "Same thing, apparently." Danny grinned. "They're calling you the Dragon Whisperer on the station feeds." Beth groaned. "Please tell me you're joking." "I wish I was. You've got fan groups now." The feeding routine itself was straightforward enough. Beth would prepare the meals exactly how Raxon liked them, super hot and heavily seasoned. She'd enter his room, and he'd eat. Simple. Except it wasn't simple at all, because of what happened next. Dr. Helen Cooper pulled her aside after the first week with a tablet full of data. Look at this. His healing rate doubles when you're in the room. Not just during feeding times. Whenever you're present, his body recovers faster. That doesn't make any sense, Beth said, staring at the graphs. No, it doesn't. We've run every test we can think of. The only variable is you. Helen zoomed in on one particular scan. Your bioelectric field somehow resonates with his neural pathways. It's stabilizing systems that the poison damaged. My bioelectric what now? Every living thing generates a small electromagnetic field. It's usually meaningless, but somehow yours synchronizes with his. Like two instruments playing in harmony. Helen looked genuinely baffled. We've never seen anything like this between two different species, especially species as different as humans and Drakari. Beth spent more time in Raxon's room after that. She brought her datapad and caught up on messages while he slept. She told herself it was just to help him heal faster, but truthfully, the room felt less lonely than her new quarters. At least here, someone needed her. She started noticing things. Small things. The way his tail would twitch when he was in pain, even if his face showed nothing. How his secondary eyelids would flutter when he was tired. The slight change in his breathing when he was uncomfortable but too proud to complain. One afternoon, she adjusted his pillow without being asked. Raxon's eyes opened in surprise. How did you know? He asked. Your neck was at a weird angle. Looked uncomfortable. He studied her for a long moment. You see things others do not. I just pay attention, Beth said with a shrug. My people do not pay attention like this. To see another's weakness, to acknowledge it, is considered deeply shameful in Drakari culture. We are taught from hatching to hide pain, to show only strength. Beth sat down in the chair beside his bed. That sounds exhausting. A rumble came from deep in Raxon's chest. It took her a moment to realize he was laughing. It is. But it is our way. Even when you're dying? Especially then. His golden eyes dimmed slightly. Do you know why I would not eat before you came? It was not that the food was wrong, though it was. It was that accepting help, showing that I needed assistance with something as basic as eating, felt like admitting defeat. But you ate when I offered. Yes. He tilted his head, studying her. Because you did not look at me with pity. You did not see a fallen prince. You simply saw someone who needed a proper meal. There is no shame in that. Beth felt something shift in her chest. Everyone needs help sometimes. That's just being alive. That is a very human perspective. Is that a bad thing? I am beginning to think it is not. They fell into a routine. Beth would prepare his meals, and they'd talk while he ate. She told him about growing up on Earth, about how she'd ended up working on a space station so far from home. He told her about the Drakari homeworld, about crystal cities and skies filled with dragons, about a childhood spent learning to be a warrior and a prince. Do you miss it? Beth asked one evening. You're home. Every moment, Raxon admitted. But I cannot return like this. Weakened. Dependent. The court would never accept it. What if you didn't go back alone? He looked at her curiously. I mean, what if someone went with you? Someone who could help without it looking like weakness. Beth wasn't sure where the words were coming from, but they felt right. Like a companion or something. You would do that. I'm already doing it here. Before Raxon could respond, alarms blared throughout the medical wing. Red lights flashed. Beth jumped to her feet as the door burst open. Commander Tyler Voss, head of station security, rushed in with a squad of armed guards. We have a breach, Tyler barked. 3 hostiles, heavily armed, heading for this location. We're going into lockdown. Now. Beth's mind raced. Her cafeteria clearance gave her access to emergency systems throughout the station. It was a holdover from when she trained as a safety officer years ago, before deciding she preferred cooking to crisis management. The quarantine protocol, she said suddenly. If I trigger it, these doors seal completely. Nothing gets in or out. Do it, Tyler ordered. Beth ran to the wall panel and pressed her hand against the scanner. Authorization Harrison, Beth. Cafeteria supervisor. Initiating medical wing quarantine. Heavy blast doors slammed down across every entrance. The room shook. Through the observation window, Beth could see figures in dark suits trying to override the locks, but the system held. How long until they break through? Raxon asked, his voice surprisingly calm for someone who'd just become a target again. 10 minutes if they're good. 20 if they're not, Tyler said, already coordinating with his team through his comm. Beth's hands were shaking. She'd just trapped assassins in the medical wing. With her. With Raxon. This was so far beyond her job description it wasn't even funny. Raxon's tail moved, coiling protectively around Beth before she even registered the movement. You saved me again, he said quietly. I just pushed a button. You knew which button to push. And when? Many trained soldiers would have frozen. His golden eyes met hers. You have good instincts, Beth Harrison. The security team subdued the attackers before they could breach the quarantine. Tyler personally questioned them, but they refused to talk. Professional assassins, he told Beth later. Expensive ones. That night, Beth couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about how fast everything had happened. How she'd reacted without thinking. How Raxon's tail had moved to protect her, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The next morning, Helen had more test results. Your stress response triggered something. During the attack, your bioelectric output spiked, and so did Raxon's healing rate. It's like your body sensed he was in danger and automatically tried to help. That's impossible, Beth said. And yet it happened. Helen pulled up more data. We're starting to understand something incredible here. Humans didn't evolve with other species around. Earth was isolated. So you developed broad-spectrum empathy. You can read emotional and biological states across species lines in a way no other race can. You're saying I'm like a universal caretaker? I'm saying humans might be the galaxy's best caregivers, period. You don't just feed people. You connect with them. Understand them. Help them in ways they can't help themselves. Helen smiled. You're not just keeping Raxon alive, Beth. You're showing the entire galaxy what humanity is capable of. Beth walked back to Raxon's room, her mind spinning. When she entered, he was sitting up, stronger than he'd been since arriving. I heard about Dr. Cooper's findings, he said. Yeah. Apparently I'm special because I'm completely ordinary. There is nothing ordinary about you. Raxon's voice was serious. Beth Harrison, you have done something no Drakri physician could do. You have saved my life twice now. My people are watching. They see a human, someone they considered beneath notice, accomplishing the impossible. No pressure, right? Beth tried to joke, but her voice cracked. I will not let anything happen to you, Raxon said firmly. You have my word. Whatever comes next, whatever political storms arise from this, you are under my protection. Beth looked at this massive dragon prince, still recovering, still vulnerable, promising to protect her. And somehow, she believed him. Same here, she said. I've got your back too. His rumbling laugh filled the room. A human and a dragon. The universe has a strange sense of humor. Yeah, Beth agreed, settling into her usual chair. It really does. The attack came at dawn, during the quietest shift change. Beth was in the small kitchen preparing Raxon's breakfast when she felt it. Not heard it, not saw it. Felt it. A wrongness in the air, like the pressure change before a storm. Her hands stopped moving. Every instinct screamed danger. She didn't question it. She ran. Beth burst into Raxon's room just as three figures in black stealth suits materialized from the shadows. They'd bypassed every security measure, every scanner, every guard. One raised a weapon toward the sleeping prince. Beth's hand slammed the emergency lockdown panel so hard her palm split open. Blast doors dropped like guillotine blades. The lead assassin's arm got caught, and he screamed. His weapon clattered to the floor. Alarms shrieked. Red lights bathed everything in blood-colored panic. Within seconds, Tyler and his security team stormed in from the emergency access tunnel, weapons drawn. They subdued the attackers in under a minute. Beth stood there shaking, her bleeding hand still on the panel, unable to process what just happened. Raxon was awake now, staring at her with those intense golden eyes. How did you know? I don't know, Beth whispered. I just knew. Tyler pulled her aside while medics treated her hand. Beth, you reacted before our sensors detected them. Before anything registered on our systems. How? I told you, I don't know. I just felt something was wrong. People don't just feel assassins coming. Well, apparently I do, Beth snapped, her nerves finally fraying. I don't understand any of this, okay? I'm a cafeteria worker. I make food. I'm not supposed to be fighting off assassins or saving princes or whatever this is. Her voice cracked on the last word. Tyler's expression softened. Hey, you did good. Really good. You saved his life. But Beth couldn't stop shaking. Later that day, Dr. Helen Cooper called an emergency meeting. Beth, Tyler, Raxon, and a handful of Earth's top scientists crowded into a conference room. Helen looked like she hadn't slept in days. I need to show you something, Helen said, pulling up a holographic display. We've been studying Beth's responses, her bioelectric patterns, everything. And I think I finally understand what's happening. The hologram showed two figures, one human-shaped, one Drakari. Colored waves emanated from both, overlapping and intertwining. Every species in the galaxy evolved alongside at least one or two other intelligent species on their homeworld, Helen explained. The Drakari had the flame speakers. The Krellians had the deep dwellers. They learned to read each other's biological signals, communicate across species barriers. But it was always limited to those specific partnerships. She zoomed in on the human figure. Earth was different. Humanity evolved completely alone. No other intelligent species. No natural partners. So humans developed something unique. What? Beth asked. Broad-spectrum empathy. Universal biological intuition. Helen's eyes were bright with excitement. Beth, you don't just read Drakari signals. You can read anyone. Your brain unconsciously processes universal distress markers, threat responses, pain indicators. Things that exist across all carbon-based life. You're saying she's psychic? Tyler asked skeptically. No. I'm saying she's human. And humans are naturally gifted at something the rest of the galaxy never needed to develop. Helen pulled up more data. We've been testing other humans on the station. They all show similar abilities to varying degrees. Some stronger, some weaker, but it's there. In all of you. Beth felt dizzy. So when I knew those assassins were coming. You picked up on threat indicators your conscious mind didn't register. Changes in air pressure from their movement, slight electromagnetic disturbances from their equipment, maybe even chemical signals. Your brain processed it all instantly and told you to run. This is insane, Beth muttered. This is incredible, Raxon said from his position by the wall. He was strong enough to stand now, though he still tired easily. Do you understand what this means? Humans have been dismissed by the galactic community for decades. Considered weak, primitive, insignificant. But you possess a gift every other species would kill to have. Helen nodded eagerly. The ability to connect with anyone, understand anyone, help anyone. You're natural diplomats, natural caregivers, natural bridge builders. Beth isn't special because she's different from other humans. She's special because she's such a perfect example of what all humans can do. We've been looking at humanity all wrong, Tyler said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. We kept trying to compete militarily, technologically. But that's not our strength. No, Helen agreed. Your strength is making connections where none should exist. Beth and Raxon are proof. Two species that should have nothing in common, yet she's keeping him alive through sheer empathy and intuition. Beth looked at Raxon. Did you know about this? Is this why you only eat from my hands? I did not know the science, Raxon admitted. But I felt it. Your presence calms something in me that has been restless my entire life. When you are near, the constant pressure to prove myself, to maintain perfect strength, it eases. I can simply be. The Drakari Empire has been watching humanity for years, he continued. Trying to decide if you are a threat or an opportunity. Some factions fear you. Others are curious. But all are paying attention now. Because of me? Beth's voice came out small. Because of what you represent. Raxon moved closer. My people value strength above all else. We respect power. But you have shown us a different kind of strength. The strength to see weakness and not exploit it. To offer help and expect nothing in return. To connect across impossible divides. Helen cleared her throat. There's more. Beth, your presence doesn't just help Raxon. We've noticed other patients in the medical wing recovering faster when you walk past their rooms. The Krellian in Ward 7, the Valtorian in intensive care. Even human patients. Your bioelectric field has a measurable positive effect on healing rates. So what, I'm supposed to just walk around hospitals making people feel better? You could do a lot worse, Tyler said with a slight smile. But Helen's expression turned serious. The problem is, not everyone sees this as a good thing. The second assassination attempt proves that. There are factions in the Drakari Empire that view human influence as a threat. If one human can do this much, what could millions do? They fear us, Beth realized. They fear change, Raxon corrected. And you represent massive change. A crown prince dependent on a human has never happened before. It challenges everything my people believe about strength and weakness. Tyler leaned forward. So what do we do? Beth can't hide. This is galactic news now. Every species knows about the human who saved the dragon prince. We use it, Raxon said firmly. We show the galaxy that this connection is not a weakness but a strength for both our peoples. That humans and Drakari together are stronger than either alone. How? Beth asked. You come with me. To the Drakari homeworld. You stand before the High Court and show them what humanity truly is. The room went silent. That's insane, Tyler said. She'd be walking into a nest of vipers. Half the court wants Raxon dead, and now Beth is the only thing keeping him alive. Which is precisely why she must come, Raxon insisted. To show that she is not my weakness but my strength. That accepting help, forming alliances, connecting across species is the future. Not the past. Beth's mind raced. Go to an alien world where people wanted her dead? Stand before a court of dragons and defend humanity? This was so far beyond making sure people got the right meals it was laughable. But then she thought about what Helen had said. About humanity's gift. About how every human had this ability to connect, to understand, to help. Someone had to show the galaxy what that meant. Someone had to be first. She looked at Raxon, this prince who'd learned to accept help, who'd let her see his weakness and somehow become stronger for it. If I do this, Beth said slowly, I'm not going as your servant. Or your pet human. Or some curiosity to parade around. Then how? Raxon asked. Beth stood up straighter. As proof that humans and Drakari can be equals. Partners. That your empire has something to gain from working with us, not just using us. A slow smile spread across Raxon's face, showing way too many teeth. I would expect nothing less. Helen grinned. I'll prepare the medical data. Scientific proof of the human-Drakari connection. Tyler sighed. I'll arrange security. Though if you're walking into the dragon's den, I'm not sure how much good it'll do. Beth felt that familiar flutter of fear in her stomach. But underneath it, something else. Something that felt almost like excitement. She was a cafeteria worker who'd saved a prince. Now she was going to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. No pressure at all. 2 weeks after the second assassination attempt, a Drakari warship arrived at the station. It was massive, black as space itself, with weapons that could turn the entire medical complex into dust. Beth watched it dock through the observation window and felt her stomach drop. That's the Imperial Fang, Raxon said quietly beside her. He was almost fully recovered now, strong enough to walk without tiring, though he still preferred having Beth nearby during meals. My cousin's flagship. The cousin who tried to kill you? The very same. The warship hadn't even finished docking when Beth's datapad exploded with messages. News feeds, diplomatic channels, even her mom back on Earth somehow got through the communication barriers to ask if she was okay. Everyone in the galaxy seemed to have an opinion about what was happening. The main story playing on every screen was the same. Lady Shera, Raxon's cousin, giving an interview from the warship. She was beautiful in the way predators are beautiful, all sharp edges and cold confidence. Her scales were darker than Raxon's, almost black, and her eyes held nothing but contempt. Our crown prince requires a human servant to survive. Shera's voice dripped with disdain. This is the future of the Drakari Empire? A leader who cannot even feed himself without assistance from a primitive species? This is not strength. This is humiliation. Beth watched her own face appear on screen, a captured image from security footage. She looked small and scared and completely out of place next to Raxon's massive form. They're making me look like I'm controlling you, Beth said, unable to look away from the screens. That is the point. Raxon's tail lashed in anger. Shera does not want me dead anymore. She wants me humiliated, disgraced. A prince who appears weak cannot rule. Drakari law is absolute on this. Danny brought Beth lunch that afternoon, though she couldn't eat. Earth's government is going crazy, he told her. They see this as a huge opportunity. Alliance with the Drakari Empire, trade agreements, protection. They're putting pressure on you to go along with whatever the Drakari want. They want me to go to their homeworld, Beth said flatly. I know. Everyone knows. It's all over the feeds. Danny sat down across from her. Beth, you don't have to do this. You can say no. Stay here. Stay safe. Can I though? Really? Beth gestured at the news feed still playing. I've become a symbol for something I don't even understand. If I refuse, what happens to human-Drakari relations? What happens to all the humans working in Drakari space? What happens to Raxon? That's not your responsibility. Maybe not. But it feels like it is. That evening, Tyler pulled Beth into a private meeting. His face was grim. I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Great. Because everything else has been going so well. Tyler didn't smile. The assassination attempts weren't meant to kill Raxon. They were meant to damage him. Specifically, to damage him just enough that he'd need constant care but still be alive. Beth felt cold. What? The poison they used. We finally got the full analysis. It targets specific neural pathways related to voluntary muscle control and sensory processing. It makes basic tasks difficult, but it's not lethal if treated. Someone wanted Raxon dependent. Weak. Unable to rule. Shera, Beth breathed. Almost certainly. And we found financial transfers linking her to militant groups within the Drakari Empire. Groups that really don't like humans. Tyler leaned forward. Beth, if you go to the Drakari homeworld, you're walking into a trap. Not to kill you, but to use you. To prove that their prince is so weak he needs a human babysitter. So what do I do? You refuse. You stay here where it's safe. Let the diplomats handle it. But even as Tyler said it, Beth knew that wasn't an option. Not really. Because Raxon was right. Hiding made it look like there was something to be ashamed of. Like their connection was a weakness instead of what it actually was. She found Raxon in his quarters that night. He was standing by the window, watching the stars, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. Tell me the truth, Beth said. What happens if I come with you to your world? Raxon didn't turn around. The High Court will demand you testify about our connection. They will question you, test you, try to prove that you are manipulating me somehow. It will not be pleasant. And if I don't come? Then Shera wins. I return home appearing weak and dependent. The court will remove me from succession. Everything I have worked for, everything I believe about the future of my people, it ends. What do you believe? Beth asked softly. About the future? Raxon finally turned to face her. I believe the Drakari Empire is dying. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. We are too proud, too rigid, too unwilling to change. We conquer worlds but make no true allies. We demand submission but inspire no loyalty. When a real threat comes, we will face it alone. And you think humans can help with that? I think what you did for me, you could do for my entire species. Show us that strength comes in many forms. That accepting help is not weakness. That connection across differences is the most powerful force in the universe. He moved closer. But I will not ask you to risk your life for my political struggles. That is not fair to you. Beth thought about her cafeteria, her 8 years of invisible work, her simple life. She thought about how one meal had changed everything. How helping one person had somehow become about helping billions. What if I didn't go as just your guest? Beth said slowly. What if I went as something more official? Like an ambassador or something? You have no diplomatic training. No, but I have something better. I'm proof that humans and Drakari can work together. That we can help each other. Beth's mind was racing now. Helen said humans have this gift for connection. Someone has to show the galaxy what that means. Why not me? Because it is dangerous. So is doing nothing. Beth met his golden eyes. You said your people are watching through you. That what they see will determine how they treat humanity. Well, let them see a human who's not afraid. Who stands beside you as an equal, not a servant. The court will never accept. Then change the court's mind. Isn't that the whole point? Beth surprised herself with how steady her voice was. You learn to accept help. Now teach them. Raxon studied her for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression, and Beth realized he was seeing her differently. Not as the human who fed him, but as someone who could stand beside him in fire and not flinch. There is a way, he said slowly. An ancient title. Bonded witness. It would give you legal standing in the Drakari court, the right to speak and be heard. But Beth, it comes with a cost. What cost? It ties your fate to mine. Permanently. If I fall, you fall. If I am disgraced, you share that disgrace. If I die, you lose all protection. His voice was grave. It is not something to accept lightly. Beth's heart hammered. This was crazy. Completely insane. Tying her entire future to an alien prince she'd known for less than a month. But she thought about what Helen had discovered. About humanity's gift. About how someone had to be first, had to show the galaxy what humans could really do. How do we do it? She asked. Beth. How do we do it? She repeated, stronger this time. Raxon looked at her with something that might have been admiration. Or fear. Maybe both. It requires a ceremony before witnesses. A binding of intent. You would swear to speak truth on my behalf. I would swear to protect you with my life. Sounds fair to me. You do not understand the weight of Drakari oaths. Then teach me. Beth stepped closer. You said you won't let anything happen to me. Well, I'm saying the same thing. We're in this together now. Partners. So let's make it official. A rumbling sound came from Raxon's chest, that laugh she'd learned to recognize. You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. Beth managed a shaky smile. When do we leave? 3 days. The Imperial Fang will transport us. Raxon's expression turned serious. Beth Harrison, if we do this, there is no going back. Your life will never be simple again. It stopped being simple the moment I decided to reheat your lunch. Beth held out her hand, a human gesture Raxon had learned. Let's show them what we can do. Raxon's scaled hand wrapped around hers, warm and careful. Together. Together, Beth agreed. She had no idea if she was making the right choice. But standing there, holding hands with a dragon prince while a warship waited to take them into danger, Beth felt something she hadn't expected. She felt ready. The galaxy was watching. Time to show them what a cafeteria worker could do. The Drakari homeworld was called Skorath, and it looked like someone had set a planet on fire and decided to keep it that way. Through the viewport of the Imperial Fang, Beth watched volcanoes paint the sky orange and red. Crystal cities rose from the flames, gleaming and impossible. Dragons filled the air by the thousands, their wings catching the light like living jewels. It's beautiful, Beth whispered. It is home, Raxon said beside her. But his voice was tense. They'd spent the 3-day journey preparing, practicing, going over every possible scenario. Beth had learned more about Drakari lore and culture than she'd ever thought possible. None of it made her feel better about what was coming. The ceremony to make her Raxon's bonded witness had been simple but intense. She'd sworn to speak only truth on his behalf. He'd sworn to protect her with his life. Their hands had been bound together with a ceremonial chain that glowed white-hot but didn't burn. When it was done, Beth felt different somehow. Like something had fundamentally shifted in her connection to Raxon. You will feel my emotions more clearly now, Raxon had explained. And I will feel yours. It is part of the bond. Beth had thought he was being poetic. Then she'd felt a surge of protective fury that definitely wasn't hers, and realized he meant it literally. The Imperial Fang landed in the capital city of Ashenfell. The moment the doors opened, heat rolled in like a physical wall. Beth stepped out in the special heat-resistant suit Helen had designed for her, but even through the protection, she felt like she'd walked into an oven. Thousands of Drakari filled the landing plaza. Their scales reflected every color imaginable: crimson, gold, emerald, sapphire, obsidian. They were beautiful and terrifying, and every single one of them was staring at Beth. Stay close, Raxon murmured. Do not show fear. Too late for that, Beth muttered back, but she kept her chin up and her step steady. Lady Shera waited at the base of the landing ramp, surrounded by supporters. Up close, she was even more intimidating than on the screens. Taller than Raxon, with scales that looked like polished midnight and eyes that promised violence. Cousin, Shera said, her voice carrying across the plaza. How wonderful that you could return home. And you brought your pet human. Beth felt anger spike through the bond. Raxon's anger, mixing with her own. I brought my bonded witness, Raxon corrected coldly. Who has more honor than you will ever possess? Shera's smile was all teeth. We shall see. The High Court convenes tomorrow. I look forward to your testimony, little human. I do hope you survive it. The royal palace was carved from a single massive crystal that had been hollowed out over centuries. Beth's quarters were actually comfortable once she got the temperature regulators working properly. Danny had managed to send her some things from the station, including her favorite coffee maker. Small comforts felt important when you were about to testify before a court of dragons. Raxon visited that evening, looking more stressed than Beth had ever seen him. "I need to tell you what to expect tomorrow," he said. "The High Court is not like human courts. There are no lawyers, no formal procedures. You will stand in the center of the chamber while the nobles question you. They will try to break you, to make you contradict yourself, to prove you are lying or manipulating me." "Sounds fun," Beth said weakly. "If you cannot answer a question, say so. If you do not know something, admit it. The worst thing you can do is lie. Dracarys can sense dishonesty, and it will destroy any credibility you have." "No pressure at all." Raxon moved closer, his golden eyes intense. "Beth, you can still refuse. We can find another way." "There is no other way. You said it yourself, they need to see that our connection is real. That humans and Dracarys can be partners." Beth tried to smile. "Besides, I've come this far. Might as well see it through. You are braver than any warrior I have known." "I'm terrified." "Yes. That is what makes it bravery." The High Court met in a chamber that looked like the inside of a volcano. The floor was polished obsidian, the walls glowed with heat, and the ceiling opened to the sky where dragons circled like vultures waiting for something to die. Hundreds of noble Dracarys filled tiered seats that rose in all directions. Beth stood in the center, a tiny human in a sea of dragons. Raxon was forced to sit in the royal section, too far away to help. She could feel his presence through their bond though, steady and calm, trying to lend her strength. Emperor Vorthan, Raxon's father, sat on a throne of crystal and flame. He was ancient and massive, with scales that had faded to silver with age. When he spoke, the chamber fell silent. "We are here to determine the truth of Crown Prince Raxon's condition and his relationship with the human called Beth Harrison." His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Let the testimony begin." Lady Shera rose first. "Of course she did. This human claims to have saved our prince through nothing but proper meal preparation," Shera said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "How convenient that she happened to know exactly what he needed. How fortunate that only she can provide it. Tell me, Beth Harrison, what did you hope to gain by making our prince dependent on you?" Beth took a breath. The heat was oppressive even through her suit. "I didn't make him dependent. I just gave him food he actually wanted to eat." "And you expect us to believe you asked for nothing in return? No political favors? No wealth? No power? I expect you to believe the truth. I was doing my job. Someone was dying because the food tasted wrong. I fixed it." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Shera's eyes narrowed. "Your job. Yes, let us discuss your job. You are a cafeteria worker. No training, no education, no expertise. Yet you succeeded where our finest physicians failed. How do you explain this?" This was the moment. Beth could feel the entire court watching, waiting. "Because I'm human," Beth said clearly. "And humans have something you don't." The chamber erupted. Dragons roared their outrage. How dare a human claim superiority? Emperor Vorthan raised his hand for silence. "Explain yourself, human." Beth's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "Humans evolved alone. No other intelligent species on our world. So we developed the ability to connect with anyone, to read universal biological signals, to understand what people need even when they can't say it. That's not superiority. It's just different. It's our gift." "A gift that conveniently makes our prince appear weak," Shera snapped. "No. A gift that kept your prince alive when your politics tried to kill him." The chamber went silent. Beth felt shock ripple through the bond from Raxon. She'd just accused the Dracarys court of attempted murder in front of everyone. Shera's scales darkened with rage. "You dare?" "I dare tell the truth. That's what a bonded witness does, right?" Beth turned to address the entire court. The assassination attempts weren't meant to kill Prince Raxon. They were meant to damage him just enough to make him look weak. To make him need help with basic things like eating so you could use it against him. Someone poisoned him very carefully to make him appear unfit to rule. "This is absurd." Shera roared. "Then explain the poison analysis," Raxon said, rising from his seat. He pulled out a data crystal. "I have evidence. Financial records linking Lady Shera to the isolationist faction. Communications detailing the plot. Testimony from the captured assassins." The court exploded into chaos. Dragons shouted, roared, demanded explanations. Through it all, Shera stood frozen, her perfect plan unraveling. But Beth wasn't done. She raised her voice over the noise. Prince Raxon learned something from almost dying. He learned that accepting help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. That pride isn't the same as strength. That connections between different people, different species, make everyone stronger. She looked directly at Emperor Vorthan. Your empire has conquered half the galaxy, but you have no real allies. Only subjects who fear you. Is that really strength? The silence that followed was absolute. Emperor Vorthan studied Beth for a long moment. Then he turned to his son. You would have this human speak for you? This is what you want for the empire. Raxon stood tall. I want an empire that survives the next 1,000 years. That requires evolution. Change. New partnerships. He gestured to Beth. This human saved my life twice. She saw value in helping me when my own people saw only political opportunity. If that is weakness, then I choose weakness over your strength. You risk everything for this belief. I risk everything because it is right. The Emperor's gaze swept the chamber. The evidence against Lady Shera will be reviewed. If true, she will face justice. He looked at Beth again. You have spoken boldly, human. Some might say foolishly. But you have spoken truth. He rose from his throne, and every dragon in the chamber went still. The Empire must evolve or die. My son understands this. Some of you do not. His voice became steel. But I do. I support Crown Prince Raxon's vision. And I recognize Beth Harrison as the first human ambassador to the Drakri Empire. The chamber erupted again, but this time with mixed reactions. Some nobles roared approval. Others hissed in fury. But the Emperor's word was law. Beth's legs nearly gave out. Raxon was beside her in an instant, steadying her. You did it, he said softly. We did it, Beth corrected. Days later, after the chaos had settled and Shera was awaiting trial, Beth stood on a balcony overlooking Ashenfell. The city glittered in the volcanic light, beautiful and strange. Raxon joined her, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Do you regret it? He asked. Everything that has happened? Beth thought about her quiet cafeteria, her simple life, everything she'd lost. Then she thought about what she'd gained. A friend who was a dragon. A purpose that mattered. The chance to change history. No, she said honestly. I don't regret it. Good. Because as ambassador, you have a lot of work ahead of you. I figured. Beth smiled. But first, you're going to let me cook you a proper meal. Something from Earth. You've never had pizza, and that's a crime. Raxon's rumbling laugh echoed across the city. Very well, Ambassador Harrison. But only if you make it properly hot. Deal. As they headed inside, Beth reflected on her journey. She'd been just a cafeteria worker, invisible and ordinary. But she'd learned something important. Sometimes the most extraordinary changes come from the simplest acts. Like making sure someone gets a proper meal. She'd fed a dying dragon prince. And in doing so, she'd helped feed hope to 2 entire species. Not bad for someone who just wanted people to eat well.